Hi everyone, Matt here from Proof Fly Fishing. This is the last video in our How to Build a Rod series, and what I want to do today, by this point your rod should be pretty much complete, and what I want to do is address a couple fixes in the event that when you get all done with your rod you notice that, you know, oh, I got my reel seats on crooked, or I've got a guide wrap that just looks terrible and I want to redo it, or any number of things. Those are kind of the two big ones that we're going to deal with right now. So real quickly, if once you're done wrapping your guides, or even a ferrule or any part of the rod, and you run your finger over the thread finish and you feel like a bump, like a sharp, it'll feel like a little spike. What's happened there is the tag end of the thread has gotten caught in the epoxy, it's hardened, and the epoxy's kind of molded and dried to like a sharp edge. All you have to do with that, and it doesn't matter, you can do this a week, 2 weeks, anytime you notice it. Just like we fixed it before, go ahead and slice off that epoxy with a double-edged razor blade and just reapply another coat of finish. In the event that you want to actually redo a guide, the best way to do that is to take a razor blade and very carefully hold it parallel to the blank and to the guide wrap, and you'll just want to, in your first pass, you want to score the finish, and you're just giving yourself a line to follow after that. And we're going to take light passes as we cut through the finish and get to the thread, and then we're going to cut through the thread. But what you don't want to do is some heavy-handed pass that actually damages the blank. So light passes, multiple passes, is going to be your best way to get those a guide wrap off so you can redo it. So again, the first pass is just scoring the epoxy, and then you just subsequent passes real light until you get down to the thread. Once you hit the thread and you get cut through the thread, you can generally just peel the whole thing off. It'll come off in one big piece. You can clean up the blank with a light solvent if you have some residue there. Part of that depends on the finish of the blank you're using. But and then you can just rewrap and apply epoxy again to get that wrap looking a little bit better. Another thing that people generally will ask me about is, how do I remove a reel seat, or how can I shift a reel seat once that epoxy is cured? And you can remove it. I would not recommend, once that epoxy is cured, to soften it and then try to let it harden again. You're better off removing the reel seat, cleaning everything up, and reinstalling the reel seat. The epoxy is going to hold much more permanently if you do it that way. So to get a reel seat off, and I'll do a whole separate video on this later, but real quickly, there's two methods that people use. The first, and this is one that I've had, it takes a while, but I've had success with it. It's not my preferred method, but a lot of people do like it, is to take your reel seat and your grip and put it inside a plastic bag, and then submerge the reel seat and the upper part of the grip into boiling water. And then just let it come up to temperature. You want to get everything quite hot. When that comes out of the water, you don't want to grab it with your bare hand. You want to put on a heavy glove like this, or a piece of a t-shirt or a towel or something to hold on to it, and then just try it. Lightly twist it, and if it doesn't give under light pressure, then put it back in the bag and into the boiling water for another 5 to 10 minutes, and just keep doing that until that epoxy gets heated sufficiently that it breaks down and softens, and you can pull that seat off. My preferred method is to use a heat gun. I'll turn it on, pretty much the highest setting, and then I'll hold the reel seat over it, maybe 6 inches, 8 inches, and rotate it. I'm constantly rotating the reel seat because I don't want it to heat up one spot only. I want the entire surface, and even remember we've got an inlet here, so we want that to get nice and warm too. So I'm moving it back and forth, heating it up, 5 to 10 minutes depending on the epoxy you're using, and then again it is going to be extremely hot. put on a glove and just test it. Try to twist it a little bit. And when it's sufficiently softened, it'll just twist and pop right off. And you should be all set. And then all you have to do is clean up the blank, cut the tape off, cut through the epoxy. Similar to how we cut the guide wrap off, you just kind of score the epoxy, get down to the tape, peel it all off. Do your best to clean out the inside of the reel seat. You can use a rat tail file, depending on how much epoxy is built up there. And then install it just like we did before to correct any misalignment that might have happened the first time. But those are the two main things I get questions about once the rods are complete. So if you have any questions about components, if you need guide spacing, if you run into a problem, I'll put my contact information at the end of this video, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have. But thank you. It's been fun. I wish you well with building your first rod, and talk to you later. Thanks.